it gives me massive pleasure to welcome Duncan Cameron, who's the Managing Director of First Bus. I'm almost 59. I get my bus pass in just over a year, and I'm very excited. So please welcome Duncan Cameron to the stage to talk to us about public transport and buses. Round of applause.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, everyone. First Bus are delighted to be gold sponsors of this event. Climate change, quite frankly, is terrifying. We're seeing the effects already with huge rainfall, the impact it has across other elements of the transport sector and the impact it's having on people's life. And quite frankly, you know, events like this raise the profile, and we need to get more people speaking about it and more people making the right decisions. So really proud and privileged to be involved. As John said, I'm Managing Director of First Bus. We're the major bus operator in Aberdeen and Glasgow. And you know, I'm really privileged to lead the business, given the role bus has on people's lives across society and the role I believe bus can have in addressing climate change and taking us to net zero. So, bus, first of all, as a mode, it's very cost effective. The cost of bus to the public sector compared to rail and other modes is significantly low. It's obviously very agile. Yes, it needs road space, but it does not need significant track or other infrastructure. And as we've seen with the effects of climate change already this year, with significant storms, significant rain, significant wind, buses continue to operate and take people where they want to go. John's quite rightly called out it can remove congestion. And yes, it needs a bit of support and it needs its place in society to remove congestion. And I guess that's probably one of the points I'm going to try and make. You know, we've got experience already of delivering additional bus services to cities, and we've seen what that's done to footfall, and we've seen what that's done to retail spend in those cities. So, firstly, there's probably two elements to this presentation. One is the steps we are taking to decarbonise our fleet, and the other one is the sort of wider role we can take to reduce transport emissions, because reducing transport emissions isn't simply dealing with any emissions that come from bus. It's transport across the board. So, we have an ambition, and it's more than an ambition, a strong commitment which First, across the UK, First Group plc has published to be zero emission by 2035. In Scotland, we've probably made the most progress out of all of our operations, and that is in part down to the Scottish Government, of all the devolved nations, probably being the more progressive in terms of public sector support. Significant capital investment from ourselves, £60 million in recent years, and that has delivered 224 electric vehicles, both in Glasgow and Aberdeen, and we also have 25 hydrogen vehicles in Aberdeen. You know, well over 30% of our fleet is now net zero. We are still going with two modes, hydrogen and electric. They both have advantages and disadvantages of one another. Electric's probably, or is definitely more affordable than hydrogen. The fuel is also, or the energy required is more accessible than the hydrogen fuel, but then electric compared to hydrogen has the range challenge. Whereas with hydrogen, it's simply a case of adding on more tanks to get greater range. Both fleet, however, come at a significant premium to the diesel equivalent. and I think we all need to accept, I'm not sure there'll be too many arguments at this point, with public sector finance in a very challenging place, I think we can expect any further funding for zero emission fleet across the wider transport sector to dry up, and therefore, we need to make significant strides to make zero emission fleet more affordable. There's two ways we can do that. That's back to my original point. More people travelling by bus makes it more commercially viable to invest in zero emission fleet, and the cost of that fleet and infrastructure we need to get down. That total cost of ownership we need to bring down. And one of the ways we've been really successful about doing this, Graham, who's here today, our Commercial Director, has been leading on business-to-business charging. So in both Caledonia and Aberdeen, two of our depots, we have that infrastructure that's in place to charge electric buses. That is then being used to charge commercial fleet. So DPD vans, police vehicles are coming in and using that infrastructure that is effectively dead infrastructure to us during the working day, with all the fleet out on the road. And a great example of the circular economy making zero emission fleet for the commercial sector much more affordable because they don't need the infrastructure, they just need the vehicles. But as I say, it's not just about getting the fleet to zero emission. We also need to think about how do we make travel much more sustainable. I'm pretty sure most people will be surprised that 79% of public transport trips in Scotland are made by bus, and we really need to give bus a greater place. We can take 75 cars off the road. We've already seen it in sections of our network whereby we've put bus priority in place and it's reduced congestion. But it needs more road space. We need to make bus more attractive by speeding up the journeys. If we provide more bus priority, we provide a quicker journey, the service is therefore more attractive for the customer. It's also therefore more commercially viable for the operator, regardless of whether it's a private operator, a municipal operator, or an operator in a franchised environment. Regardless, the operator has a more commercially viable product and is therefore able to invest in more zero-emission fleet, reduce the cost because the operator is operating at less cost, needing less resources for quicker journey time, so it's a lower fare to the customer and is able to make the service more accessible by putting on more services across the network. We also need to think about planning more sustainably as well. Any form of public transport is a derived demand. And regrettably, there are still too many planning decisions, whether it's commercial development, which makes the end-to-end destination for employment or retail much more fragmented and harder to serve, encouraging more individual car journeys, or whether it's residential development. And the sector and local authorities really do need to work much closer together in terms of local development planning to make sure both origin and destination is much more densely populated, therefore allowing public transport to be provided more sustainably. And I just want to finish by evidencing some really good work that's been done in collaboration with the Scottish Government. There's a picture of Graham, representatives from Aberdeen City Council, Cabinet Secretary and Stagecoach, promoting the great results from bus priority that was installed in Aberdeen last summer. The results have been really significant. It wasn't much investment from a public sector point of view. It was a commitment to provide road space in the city centre. It sped journeys up. It's, from first point of view, it's allowed us to take 3 buses out the cycle. We have then reinvested that because the journey time was quicker, so we can run the same timetable, less resource. With all that resource saved, we provided free journeys every weekend throughout the month of January. That's led to significant growth in terms of people using public transport, and those users, a number of those users have stayed with us. So for anyone questioning, you know, bus priority is bad for city centre economy, we've just evidenced it's not. Footfall across the city centre is up 4%, and you know, we've brought significant amount of bus passengers to the city centre to spend money. So, you know, a great example of us being able to make some sustainable change in a city centre. That's my presentation. Thank you very much.
And my big takeaway from that is that First Bus are there sharing with other businesses their infrastructure. It's something we need to do much more of. Is not as easy as it sounds, but with the right systems in place and the right vision to deliver it, it can and must be done.